Welcome in 29ers. Jace Matheny here from the mothership. Bringing you another, I don't know what you would call this, the greatest cribbage show in the world, as we always say, right? The greatest and worst cribbage podcast in the universe. Because I'm pretty sure, at least at this time, we're the only one. Terry off at the beach at the East Coast, Mr. Tinfoil. A couple things have been going on over the last week or so. And I guess we have some things to talk about.
Yeah. Not to get political, but there's that iconic line from Gerald Ford's inaugural speech where he goes, "Our long national nightmare is over."
Wait, I did not think you were going to Gerald Ford when you were saying not to get political. Yeah, right. Yeah, cool. By the way, side note, Gerald Ford and I share a birthday. It's one of very few. It's like me, Gerald Ford, and like SpongeBob, but that's another story.
He's the only president in history to not be elected by the people. Also,
there you go. Yeah, did not win a single one. So yeah.
Carter beat. I think it was Carter beat him in the next one. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, so I just want to say, we're going to cover everything tonight for the final time. We're just a brief synopsis of what went down, why it ended the way it did, and I think it wasn't the perfect outcome, but in the end, I think it was reasonable, and and we can put this behind us.
So for those that don't know, or if you're catching up on this, there's been some, I don't know, drama, like stuff going down in the ACC, kind of the national governing body of this lovely game that we play. I think most people listening to this are probably ACC members. But there are things that have to happen, and I guess some of those things did. I know I kind of put on my Pablo Torre kind of hat, my journalist hat, reached out to some people, talked to some people. But Terry, I know this has like been kind of a thing of a lot of passion for you. So I'm going to kind of give you the floor here. I will do my best as a neutral journalist here to cut in and speak to facts. If I don't know if you need to adjust your tinfoil Red Sox hat as we go through this, but in all sincerity, I want to let you speak your piece about this. So the floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, so I'm going to say that this is probably the biggest scandal in ACC history. Maybe that's an opinion thing, and if you don't agree that it is, it has to be one of them. So
recent memory, I would agree. I would agree. I've heard of some stuff before that's been pretty rough, but yeah, it's certainly a lot of people have been talking about it recently.
One of the top players in the country, David Aiello, was witnessed by multiple people manipulating the deck on his deal. And he was sent to the ethics committee. If the ethics committee is going to proceed against him, there needs to be 2 eyewitness letters. Okay, at least 2. I was one of them. There was a second eyewitness letter from the Florida tournament. And unfortunately, going into that first meeting, that second letter was not present. So a suspension at that meeting was not a viable path because that second letter wasn't present. Now, the reason why it wasn't present was because it was sent to a separate email that Megan Player apparently did not have access to yet. So, on one hand, kind of an honest mistake. On the other hand, I would say there was a lack of due diligence there. She should have had access to the actual ethics committee email. The rest of our emails went to her personal email, which could be an issue in and of itself that should probably be looked at in the near future if it's not already. They should all be going to the official email. So because of that, like I said, no suspension was rendered. Had both been present, the ethics committee could have suspended him. The evidence would have been sufficient for a suspension if they wanted to do so. Now, this doesn't mean they definitely would have, but it was a viable path had both of those eyewitness letters been present. Additionally, there was what we call an unofficial letter that was submitted even before my letter and that other player's letter. That letter was inadmissible because the author of that letter refused to put David's name to it. Someone else submitted what I guess I'm going to call an unofficial letter as well, just trying to verify just basically telling the committee, I know for a fact that David Aiello was the subject of that letter, but that turns out that's not admissible either. They can't take another player's word for what another author of another letter had to say. It's just
Yeah,
not
that's kind of
admissible.
I'd call that hearsay.
Yeah, and I'm not complaining about that. I'm just saying it is
Sure.
what it is. Now, hypothetically, let's just say the author of that unofficial letter came forward and was willing to do it all of a sudden. Had that taken place, the ACC could have looked at a possible expulsion. I think the evidence would have been sufficient for an expulsion if they wanted to go that route. Now, again, I'm not saying they would have went that route, but it would have been sufficient. So what I'm getting at here is David Aiello is extremely fortunate that some of the evidence, through no, malicious fault of anyone, was mishandled. And he's extremely fortunate that one of the three was not willing to participate, because he very well might never played another tournament again, had all of that fallen into place. So
I will take this moment to note that it's almost a bit on the show, but the opinions of Terry Cushman do not necessarily represent that of Jason Matheny, the Competitive Cribbage Podcast, and all its affiliates. All rates reserved, 2026. So, yeah, I mean, it's certainly a complex situation. So I'm sorry, I kind of jumped in there. I think you've got a few more other things you want to.
I got one other thing to say, but
Yep.
but it's totally different. So if you want to weigh in on all that, you can.
I mean, like I said, I think most of it you're pretty much there. I don't know if it's dead set, right? The level of evidence or not is debatable. Like I think most would agree the shuffle was not sufficient, and it is very, very hard to. And I spoke to a few like high-ranking officials, right, folks who are on the ethics committee, and like most agreed that it's pretty hard to say what's in someone's head, right? It's there's kind of a scarlet C for like cheating in our community, and I don't know if Dave was doing that or not. Like I think we have different levels of sureness about that, you and I, and that's okay. And I think it's okay for everybody to see it differently. I don't mean to be like wishy-washy in the middle on it. But I don't know if I were on that committee if I would be able to like vote to convict. It's like civil trial versus criminal trial kind of stuff there. So that part I think is complex and tricky. And I think we can all agree that like the process, it was not as efficient as it could be. And hopefully as somebody who's not on the ethics committee and somebody who is on the board but doesn't like involve myself in that stuff, hopefully the things were learned from this process.
I could write a book on this whole process, and
I'm waiting for you too, man. You got the, I don't know if like this is like, JFK assassination stuff. Like I'm waiting for you to like publish your special on it, but keep going.
I mean, there was a point where it was looking like tonight's show was going to look a lot different. Let's put it that way. But in the end, cooler heads prevailed. I will say, if you haven't read it yet, I did release my letter publicly, and I thought my observations were very clear, very, very precise, 1000%. I'm confident in what I saw, and
Okay.
I'll stand by that letter forever. I thought I had one other thing. Oh, and I want to be clear about one thing. I only released that letter publicly because I lost confidence in the investigation. When we're going to get to the Weber and Widener stuff, but when sanctions were levied on them, one of which was a suspension, I lost all confidence, and that's what compelled me to make my letter public. Had that not happened, I would have remained anonymous forever.
Okay.
And I would
For
have
the
been fine
record,
with
I
it.
and you know, it certainly came up last week. Like I'm a big fan of any kind of transparency, like from the organization, from like private people. Like if somebody thinks I'm a, you know, somebody who's, you know, cheating, doing whatever in cribbage, like I welcome like the open forum to talk about these things. And that's, you know, that's I feel like all of these things and all the discussions on these things ultimately like makes it better. But yeah, I can understand why you feel that way.
One last thing on him. There was an additional letter sent, and it happened after that first initial meeting when he was placed on permanent probation. The author of this letter basically gave me a heads up about it, probably not quite a month or so ago. That person also gave me permission to discuss it here on the podcast. So I'm gonna describe what this person experienced in her game with David Aiello. So and it has nothing to do with the shuffle. They were in the pegging sequence of what ended up being the final hand of the game. Okay,
Mhm.
they're right at the tail end. David is 7 points out. At some point in the pegging, he scores 31 for 2, but took 3 points. He took an extra point on the 31 for 2. So now he's 4 points out. His opponent recognizes it right away and says, "Hey, wait a minute. You took an extra point." David goes back 1 point, so now he's into the 5 hole. His opponent goes forward a point, as she was entitled to. And the pegging part of that hand ends with David not scoring another point. So he's still 5 points out. He had a 4-point hand and lost that game in the dead hole. If his opponent didn't catch it, he wins the game. He would have won the game. And we can't prove intent with that, but I will point out it did happen under the most critical and by all appearances, shadiest of circumstances. Like he almost converted a loss into a win by taking an extra point for a 39. He didn't. He seemed to, he didn't seem to argue about the extra point. He moved back, just like he was supposed to. Had he taken too many, so I guess we all need to be vigilant, regardless of who you're playing, and his opponent was fortunate that she was on the ball and she caught it, but always when someone scores any type of play, whether they're taking their hand, whether it's a pegging point, always be vigilant, always make sure that their pegs are in their appropriate holes and that they took the right amount of points.
I think the main takeaway from this, right? And the like intent is impossible, right? I can't tell you what's in anyone's head. Um, but to me, the takeaway from this is the vigilance that you're talking about, right? Just paying attention. Um, I think we all have probably been guilty of times of not really paying that close to those things, and I'm sure those things have probably happened. I'm sure we also have accidentally taken an extra point. That one's, it's kind of a rough spot. Like it looks a little rough. But again, impossible to prove intent. But the other element of this is that I would give is that when these things happen, like I think it is very important to write these things down, establish these things. Doesn't mean anybody is up to any funny business, but these things stack up after time. And I know there have been notable players who have been not really welcome at events anymore because they stack up enough incidents for this. So I think that's my main takeaway from this is write down the things, do the things. Just because you write a letter on somebody doesn't mean that they are Scarlet C doesn't mean they're a cheater. But it does. It's never going to hurt the situation. Is what I would say. I recall a situation. It was not like a cheating thing. It was the way that a player treated me, and when I was kind of a young buck, and I knew this person was a muckety muck in the community, and I wish I had written a letter on them because they were really, really, really rude and inappropriate to me, and I didn't. I just didn't really know what to do or this or that. So that would be my main takeaways. Like write the letters, do the things. So anyway, so
Yeah,
okay.
I mean,
Keep going.
if that incident happened on Second Street, we're not talking about it.
Yeah.
But it happened in the most critical part of the game.
I mean,
So-
figures slip, things like that. I will give some room for like plausible, like it's plausible that it's not a sketch thing, but nobody really truly knows.
Well, nothing became of the letter that we're aware of. So I think that's how the committee looked at it, the ethics committee. All right, let's move ahead into the Widener and Weber aspect of it just real quick. So Weber had a suspension at stake. That will not happen. He will not be suspended. Keith Widener was looking at indefinite probation. That's not going to happen either. So those have kind of been wiped away. There are caveats to it that I'm not going to speak on. If those players want to do so, then that's up to them. But they're not looking at any punishment. The ethics committee has basically rescinded that, for lack of a better term. But what happened there were 2 letters submitted on both Keith and Terry Weber. One was by Mr. Credibility himself, David Aiello. The other was submitted by Megan Player. And the reasoning here is different. So in David Aiello's case, apparently he felt like they made some threats in something in regards to recovering past prize money. Weber, Widener, they both categorically denied that. And the biggest problem with pursuing sanctions here, this is just to the best of my understanding, David Aiello was the only witness to that conversation. It took place outside of the building. And by the way, that was all done so quietly, I had no idea it had even happened. Did you have any idea? I was in the tournament room.
I had some conversations that day, but nothing really of note. No, I'll just say no.
The whole thing happened. I was in the tournament room, just completely unaware of that it had all gone down outside. But regardless, so to the best of my understanding, because David Aiello was the only eyewitness to that, just like anything, there needs to be 2 eyewitnesses to render sanctions on players, because of an incident. Now, 1 letter is enough to open an investigation, but David Aiello's word alone wasn't going to be enough for the committee to actually sanction them based on anything that took place in that conversation. And to the best of my knowledge, it's never happened before in the history of the ACC, as far as I know. So if anyone has any information to the contrary, come find me. Easy guy to find. But I don't even know why the committee even looked at that. And also I haven't seen David Aiello's letter. I haven't seen any letters from anybody that were the initial ones that were sent in, not one. And I was very careful about that because I didn't want to be accused of tampering or manipulating or blah, blah, blah. So to this day, I haven't seen anybody's initial letter. I have seen some stuff after the fact, but yeah, so if part of Megan's letter was in regards to what was said to David Aiello, she was hundreds of miles away, and I just wanted to point that out. We were on the Florida Panhandle. She's up in, central North Carolina, so hundreds of miles away. Apparently, part of key sanctionings were in regards to a heated text exchange, which happened after Megan overturned. I don't even know if overturned is the right word, but once she declared that Aiello would be allowed to play the next day in the Constellation, they did have a heated text exchange. And I don't know where you should go on that. It was a private conversation. It had nothing to do with the orderly running of the tournament. None of the players at the tournament were impacted by it. None of the tournament directors were impacted by it. It was a private conversation between two grown-ass adults. And so, if we're going to sanction people based on private text messages, I think that's a slippery slope to go down, to be trying to regulate something like that. And
so let me cut in here. I that's opinion, and I think that I don't know. I think there's something to be said for how people conduct themselves, even one to one. And I don't know, like I know as a member of the board of directors, right, kind of held to a higher standard. I'm not privy to any text messages between any Megan, Keith, Terry, whatever. But I don't know if I can agree, like ride with you on, like private conversations. If I don't know, like if I decide I want to start texting you, I don't know, like the most vile of vile things. Like I think there can be like I don't know what you would call it, consequences from that. Whether those consequences are you blocking me or like you snitching on me to the ethics committee or something else, like in the vein of like cribbage stuff. I think there's an argument to be made for that. So I don't know if I'm going to agree with you wholly on that part.
Well, we're both giving our opinions here, and that's all they are.
Yeah. Okay. I just, like
none of the ethics committee's business, in my opinion, but we can agree to disagree on that.
Okay. Fair enough.
Now, if this was an open conversation and they're both on one end of the tournament room, now that's a huge problem. Now it's everybody's business. It's a distraction, and and it should absolutely be looked at. But that's not even close to what occurred. So I just think there's a big difference. And is it a freedom of speech thing as well?
Well, okay. Let's be. Hold on. Let's be clear. I'll jump in here because this is. I don't want to get into like the crossfire big debate here, but like freedom of speech is freedom from like being arrested for the words that you have to say, not freedom from getting in trouble because of the words you have to say. Right? All the stories of like people losing their jobs because of things.
All right, I'll give you that. I'll give you that because it protects. So
I think that's different.
It protects you against the government. All right, fine. We'll strike that one. All right.
The things I did not expect to ever years ago, Jason says, "Hey, I'll join this cribbage podcast." Right? The things I didn't think I'd be debating here, but here we are.
It's a slippery slope one way or the other, I feel like. But all right, and then finally, I saved the big one for last. They unequivocally had permission to remove David Aiello from the tournament. That's disputed by nobody. Megan Player does not dispute the fact that she made the call. The ethics committee and the executive committee does not dispute the fact that Megan Player unequivocally made the call to remove David Aiello from that tournament. And the primary reason they were sanctioned was that Widener and Weber both acted as the sole judge and juror without giving David Aiello due process. Yet it's universally accepted that Megan Player, made the decision to remove him. And additionally, and then that's when the heated and then after Megan overturned it, the heated text exchange that we just covered and agreed to disagree on certain aspects of it took place. I want to read one thing from chapter 9, section 2, letter B. Again, chapter 9, section 2, letter B from the policy manual. There is a provision in there: a temporary suspension from tournament and or grassroots play may be ordered while the ethics committee investigation proceeds. So based on that, it certainly appears that Megan Player had the authority to stick to her guns if she wanted to. Now, it doesn't show any criteria, any provisions. Does A, B, and C need to be submitted before that? It doesn't cover that. It very much appears to be a discretionary provision that's listed right there. Chapter 9, Section 2, letter B in the policy manual. So and this is my opinion. I think Keith Widener knew exactly what he was doing. He was previously the chair of the ethics committee. I think he knew policy and procedure pretty well. Within 48 hours, both eyewitness letters were submitted. So mine took 4 hours to write. So I mean, it was never going to happen at the tournament. I think it's extremely unreasonable to expect that I would have had that amount of time to write my letter in great detail. So as as far as I can tell, there wasn't really a case against those two, and I don't know. I can't sit here and say, and that's why the sanctions were rescinded. I don't know that that's exactly why, but the sanctions were rescinded. It was not handled well on multiple levels, and here we are. The suspension's been dropped. Widener's not on probation, and unless you have anything else left to say, I don't really have anything.
The only thing I'll add, like I said, I spoke to some people as trying to gather information as best I could on this. Right, spoke to I'll call them high-ranking officials, folks that didn't ask that I specifically use their name, but like people I speak to like on background is what they call that in like journalism. Like I think the committee had a hard job on this, and in some of these cases there wasn't necessarily a whole lot of precedent for how to handle some of these things with like board members, and I think ultimately like the like I don't take issue with where it ended up. That's just my opinion of it. Like I think they had a hard job. I think that they did the best they could with it. It seems like most, if not all, the parties are happy with where it ended up. So I guess I'm ultimately okay with it. Like I'm very excited at this podcast being a lot more card based than it is rules and regulations based, and like discussions about like different committees and other things. Like the committee stuff I want to talk about is like the exciting things that we're going to try to do for the organization, right? So yeah, I think it's like I said, hopefully things were learned from this about like just channels to do things, and hopefully we all learned from this, from talking about it on the program, where again, right, like if you see something, like write a letter, put your name on it, do the the things you have to do in order to write like an effective letter. So that's at least my take on it. Like it's definitely been an interesting ride to kind of cover it. So anything else before we move on to bigger and better things here?
I'm just gonna say, it wasn't a pleasant experience, and at one point, I was a witness against David, and then on the other side of it, even though the board never came at me with any, or the ethics committee rather, never came at me with any threats, despite how transparent I was being in a very unprecedented way. Despite the fact they never really seemed to take a stance against me, I felt like I was a co-defendant the whole time.
Well, I mean,
Keith and Weber.
Builds into your tinfoil that you have. Like you love this stuff. Like
I do not love this stuff.
Oh, all right, that's fine.
I don't love this stuff. We can talk about the Charlie Kirk assassination or 9/11 if you want, and I love that stuff. I do not love this stuff. I don't love it when I have a stake in it. It's extremely stressful. It's emotional, and it's not fun. And I don't wish it on anybody.
Okay, all right, we can end it there. All right, well, hopefully good is gotten from this. I think that's my ultimate like wish on that. So, all right, I don't have a smooth transition from this to our fantasy draft. but we are going to just jump right into that. So I decided this week we're going to go with like a topic that is near and dear to all of our hearts, or at least most of our hearts, which is gambling. And we've done a couple of gambling fantasy drafts, but I thought we would do our favorite ways to gamble when it comes to cribbage. Believe it or not, gambling happens from time to time at cribbage tournaments. It's one of the things I very much like about cribbage tournaments is like I'm a sucker for gambling. Like, were you somebody that always liked gambling, Terry? Like you kind of a card guy and this and that, but we're in like elementary school or middle school or whatever it is, where you fling in lunch money dollars on like sporting events and this and that. Was that kind of the roots of a lot of this for you?
Uh, I did bet occasionally on sports. I wouldn't say I was like a fiend or anything, but
Okay. I will admit to my like I'm borderline a fiend. I can quit whenever I want, Terry. Gambling is not a problem for me. I can quit whenever I want, just like any addict says. Oh, so anyway, we're going to talk about our favorite ways to gamble involving cribbage. So not just, casino games or whatever it is, but your favorite ways to gamble that involves the game of cribbage. I do in fact have the nickel of, I don't know, like if you flipped it, would it be the nickel of justice? Would it be the nickel of, like
we can
legal
call
or
it the
Mills Lane or, so I'm going to flip it here. And what do you want to call it? Did I flip it off the screen? Do you need to verify whether or not I actually flipped it or
You seem like a very ethical person, Jason, so I will just call heads.
all right. It is in fact a head. So,
Okay.
So you can, of course, as always, have the first pick, or you can defer.
Well, we both know what I'm gonna take the first pick, but we both know what it's not gonna be. As we jokingly
Kind of a running gag between you and I, but I feel like all will be revealed before the end of this program. Please go ahead with your first pick.
I'm gonna take the Henry Douglas pool.
Oh,
that's my number
side pool. So please tell the folks that don't know the Henry Douglas pool what it is.
Yeah, so it originated in the Southeast, and it's simply a $20 winner take all pool. And if you happen to qualify for the playoffs, the person who goes the furthest essentially wins all the money. Now, what does commonly happen is there could be a chop. Maybe you'll get to the final four and only two of you will still be in it. So you can chop it. So if there's $600 in it, you'll both take 300. At the really big events like the ones we just went to, the ACC Open, the National Open, Grand National, those are where you really want to get, even if you don't like it, get in it at those events. Because the year I won the National Open, I ended up having to split it with David Stats, and I'm 0 for 6 or something like that in regular playoff play against David Stats. As fate would have it, I was 2-0 in that tournament run against him, but it was worth like right around $1,900 when we chopped it. So we both took, I think, 800 and change. And the reason why it was tragic for me personally was because had I won my winner's bracket final match to go to the final, Christy Hawk would have had to have gone and played David Stats. And had she beaten him, I would have won the pool straight up. But because I lost the match and I had to go play Stats, of course, like it would be insane if I said, no, I'm not chopping it with you, David. So I chopped it. He was gracious enough to agree with it because he certainly didn't have to. And so again, we took both probably, I don't know, 900 and change, I think, for that.
It's an interesting etiquette thing, right? Because I've been in similar spots, right? Where you trying to negotiate this or that. And right, it's like if if the other person left is somebody you don't think that is a great player, right? Is it, it's kind of looked down upon to not do a chop. And I know there are some stories of, like, I know there's one in particular that involves a certain player from the Northeast that we both know that elected not to, and he ended up losing, if I recall. But yeah, it's a tricky thing with those whether to do that or not. But yeah, the Henry Douglas pool is a great pick. $20 side pool. I feel like if there was only one pool that I would get in an event, it would be that one. Just $20 and run as far as you can run on that one. So that's a good pick. Okay. All right. I'm gonna take with my first pick. I'm gonna take Captain's Cribbage. You play a lot of Captain's Cribbage, Terry Cushman?
Not a ton, but I have.
Captain's Cribbage is my favorite cribbage side game, and for those that don't know, it's literally in the Dylan Colvert book. It's mentioned, but basically, it's a 3-player game where you play 2 against 1, and the 1 starts in hole 60, and also starts with the deal. And I think I don't know. I think the captain wins about a third of the time. But yeah, I think you can wager on the sides with that. Usually the way I think it's fair is that you do a round or so. If it's you, me, and one other person, right? There would be one round where I'm captain, one round where you're captain, and one round where the third person is captain. And then you kind of tally it up at the end and pay off who needs to be paid off. But to me, that's my favorite, like sitting around the room, kill some time. Yeah, let's play some captains. Like I think I like it better than Canadian doubles. Like I think it's a little more about, I don't know, like setting up like pegging situations with the person that you're teaming with, and if you're the captain, how to kind of stay away from those things. Versus Canadian, I feel like so much is just it's you try to optimize and set the hands as good as you can, but so many times it's just how you throw the pegging cards and do you get lucky, do you not?
Mm-hmm.
So that's my favorite one. For my second pick, I'm going to take a pool that I don't see a whole lot, but is maybe my favorite of all the sides during an event, other than maybe the Henry Douglas pool, and that's the accordion pool. Have you ever heard of this one?
Is is it different from the wrap?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Yes.
I'm not familiar with it.
So and those that don't know, a wrap pool is where you take either your best 3 or 4 game stretch, and whoever has the highest of those scores. No, the accordion pool is where a number of people get in. So say, I don't know, like 30 people get in, and they'll decide beforehand. Basically, the top 4 will get paid by the bottom 4 in those increments. So like the person who's like the highest will get, say, like $40 from the person that scored the absolute lowest. The person that scores the second highest will get $30 from the second lowest, and on and forth. And I like that for a couple of reasons. One, it keeps me going even if my cards are just bad. Like say I'm playing a consolation and I'm 2 and 5 or 1 and 6 or something like that. Those last 2 games can be $20 and $40 games for me. So kind of anything that keeps people sharp, maybe when their card is not good. I've seen that one mostly. I know in the Denver area, like Loveland, it was something they ran for a little while. So it's a neat little pool. I like it. I think it's, most of the time you're just in the middle. You don't win or lose anything, but I do like the accordion pool.
All right. I'm gonna go with I don't know if it has a title, but one thing I like to do, and I do it with Megan Player and others occasionally, is we'll just simply bet on scorecards. So whoever has the best scorecard at the end of the day, you're gonna win. For me, it's a $20 bet. So I don't bet huge money, just enough to make it fun, basically. So we have a $20 bet, and if it's a 22 gamer, and I have 30 points at the end, she has, let's say, 28. Let's be polite and put us both in the playoffs. I would win the bet. So it's just one thing we like to do. It's a fun thing to keep tabs on throughout the day.
I like you sniped me on that one. I was definitely going to take that next round. I like those for the same reason with the accordion pool, is that it keeps me sharp throughout the day, no matter what my card is. I have one with Bruce Sadler, and it's $20, just like you said. And to me, it's the pride of it is more than the money. The idea of having to slink over at the end of the day, if I've had a bad day, and find Bruce and have to peel $20 out of my wallet and hand it over to him, stings. And so that's why I will just fight for every hole, that I possibly can in an event, even if I'm, I don't know, like 8 and 12, right? Those last two games could be $20 games for me. So same reason I do like that one. Good pick.
My third pick is going to be what is typically called an all events pool. So if you're at a cluster, it might include both mains and Canadian doubles. And whatever your combined score for all three of those are, you end up reporting it to whoever's logging it all. And then whoever has the best score will win, X amount of money.
Yeah.
So
Well said. Who's it? I believe it's I forget which Post brother runs it in Reno typically. But I feel like I'm going to screw up the person's name. But
that's the combo pool. Yeah.
correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And various versions, all events, combo, whatever you want to call it. Like, yeah, any event where there's 2, 3, 4 things, having all of them combined. I feel like that's a neat pool. I do like that one. That's a good pick as well. I didn't even have that one on my list. I didn't think about that. Okay. So for my last two, I knew this one was going to be available, but I'm going to take what's known as the Gruber pool. And it's a source of contention between you and I. And within the Gruber pool, for those that don't know, it is a $100 pool, and half of it goes to the highest qualifier who is in the pool, and half of it goes to whoever goes furthest in the playoffs. It is a bone of contention between the two of us because you will not get in it, at which point I think you are an idiot for not getting in it. But opinions are important on this program. But like, it's one thing if you don't like it as much as your standard $100 pool, but I just think it is. I'll give a short version of this story. Is that one year in Reno, I did pretty well in the TOC. I made it to the final 8, and I didn't realize that the pool was a Gruber pool. So I'd gotten my sides like during the about broke even on the sides, and then when it came time for the main on Saturday, I was putting my money in, and Marlene Lazarchuk, who runs the pools, said, "Hey, I need to talk to you 1 second." I go, "Uh-oh, like what happened?" Like Marlene's kind of an imposing figure. I think I will, and she's very kind to me and everything else. But I thought maybe something got overpaid or I screwed something up or whatever it is. And she comes up and she goes, "Hey, you won the Gruber pool in the TOC. Nobody else in the final 8 were in it." And she peels off like 5 minutes before the start of the 22 games in Reno. I think it was like $2,100. And I remember I was like shaking. I think I lost my first 3 in the main that year in Reno because I was so like, what the hell just happened? Like I have like a mortgage payment money in my pocket right now. Is big deal to me. So anyway, but I like the Gruber pool. I just think you're nuts for not ever getting in it.
I just think the Henry Douglas pool is going to be worth just as much as the one half of the Gruber pool, and then the other half, I've just always preferred that it just be a normal 100 with multiple payouts instead of just one. That's how I've always looked at it. We're gonna fight about this for the rest of our life.
If you prefer it that way, I think that's fine. I think you're just silly not to go in it without elevating my rhetoric here or anything like that. I think if you are a good player, you should be getting in as many pools as you possibly can.
But also, I don't know if I've said this on the air. Like, why can't we have both? Like, if some people are insistent on there being a Gruber pool, why can't we at least just have a normal 100 and the Gruber pool, and then let everyone decide? I think that's the best way to do it.
Well, it happens in Reno, and that I know Eric Locke has been like running those. So yeah, I see no reason why not. Like, I am for all the pools. Like, okay. And for my last pick, I'm gonna go with a wacky one. It's one that that me and Gary McCuskey and a few others, like I know Wendy Fuso and a few others have done it with me. It's not even in the actual cribbage room. And it's if you're in a place with a casino, you got some time to kill, get some ones going, and we play what's known as cribbage video poker. So you literally sit down next to somebody, you get in the cheapest video poker machine that you can, usually like nickels or something like that, and you draw. And the 5 cards in front of you are your cribbage hand, and simple as that. And you just play a buck every time. and you usually end up throwing the same dollar back and forth for as long as you care to do it. It's a blast. If you're in a casino, a lot of times you can get beverages out of it, and it's low level video poker. You're usually not getting banged up too badly. Although weirdly, whenever I play cribbage video poker with Gary, he seems to bang me up for like $20 every time, like at $1 one. There's no skill to it other than if you're somehow like counting your hand badly, but you're not actually like drawing that for your like actual video poker hand. But I just love that as a little side cribbage game. It's a nice way to kill some time in a casino and not get crushed financially. So cribbage video poker is my last pick.
So I get one last one.
You do.
Okay. This is for all the newer people out there. If you're new to side pools in general, in my opinion, the best one to get into is the $50 pool. And the reason why I've always believed that, and that used to be the only one I would play as well. But the reason I believe that is you have to beat fewer people. Like you can get in the $20 one or the $10 one, but you have to have a damn good card. You have to have one of the best cards of anybody in that pool to get paid. In the $50 pool, there's not going to be as many people in it. So you could end up winning it with not necessarily a great card, but just, a pretty good card, and you could have a decent payout. So if you don't want to post it's 180 if you get into all of them, 10, 20, 50, 100. But, for $50, I just think that's the best value of all of them. So when you get to the point where you're ready to maybe start getting in some of them, I'd look at that one.
Okay. That's a fair point. Yeah. Almost everybody's going to be in the 10 and the 20. And right. So if you don't have the highest card in the room, it's going to be pretty hard to do too well in that one. I think that's a reasonable point there.
One year, case in point, I think it was the first year I went to Reno. I was in a 12-game main in Connecticut. I only had a 13 card, didn't even come close to qualifying, but it won the $50 pool, and I bought my flight tickets. I bought my flight tickets with it. So that's just one example.
Okay. All right, cool. I like that one. All right. What are your favorite ways to gamble? cribbagepodcast@gmail.com is the best way to reach us on that one. And speaking of which, let me hit the mailbag really quick here before we hit some hands. Rick Montague checks in, says, "Hey guys, just a quick note. Another great show last week. Wanted to comment on something Jason mentioned about Grassroots. I myself had a 12-4 card years ago, but even impressive, I didn't witness while playing in another club this year, a 15-5 card. As always, Team Tinfoil, Rick Montague." So yeah, 15-5 is that's cool. I don't know if there's ever been anything better than a 15-5. Like I've never seen or heard of an 18-6, whether it be even in Grassroots or in like a larger event. But I'm curious if there's any kind of tracking over like who's had the most amount of wins that are only skunks. So 15-5 is as good as I've ever heard of.
That's the first I've ever heard of it. So
yeah. Let's see. Monica Newton checks in, says, "Jason mentioned a 12-4 this year. Debbie Stevens in our club, Newport, Oregon, turned in a 15-5, and yes, she got first place that night." So at least a couple of them that have come up on that one. This one, all right. Chris Bailey sent an email, but it's a little more extended, and we're a little long already today, so I'm going to save that for next week. We'll call that one a miracle. Would you say a Bailey bomb?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a pretty remarkable set of events there. He also, by the way, checked in with, I don't know, have you ever seen the table that Chris has put together of your odds of qualifying in a 22 gamer?
My friend Derek asked me about that specifically, and then I sent him the idea, and I forgot to share it with Derek though. But yeah.
So Chris has done this with also with a 9-game Grassroots, and it's your chances to score, which I know you don't really play Grassroots, but in Grassroots, it's 12 points or bust. It's simple as that. And Chris put this together. I'm going to share it on the screen here really quick. This is like the small version of it. I think he put it on Facebook as well, but his little table of the percentages of what you are as you go along. It's kind of fun to follow along as it happens. And this came up originally because I sat next to Chris in Reno, and watched as he, had that table out and was kind of giving his totals as he went along. Like, and I think he's told stories of being at like, like some ridiculous low percentage to qualify and then somehow pulling it out. So neat little table there. I'll give credit where it's due to Chris. He makes some really, really neat stuff for the organization. So let me see what else we have here. From Bestie Wanda. Hey, Bestie and Terry. First, I got to brag a little. I played in Abington, Massachusetts this past weekend, and I qualified in the Consi on Friday and the main on Saturday. She was low qualifier. Boy, being low qualifier, is that not the best feeling like ever, by the way? Like, you're sitting around waiting. You just want to know, and you find out you're the last one in.
Yeah. Especially when you don't really expect to be.
Yeah, it's like found money. Found money's the best. Anyway, she said, didn't do as good as my friend David Stats, who won both mains, which right on for Dave on that one, but happy for Dave and myself. She mentions also, embarrassed to say that in 2 different games, miscounted both versions of 23-point hands, counted them as 21. Both opponents were nice enough to tell me and show me the count. I missed a pair of jacks on the first one, and the 3 5s is 15 for 2. Regardless of how embarrassed I feel, it's a good point to bring up that it would be a good idea to memorize the only 2 hands that form 23 points and the 4 unique 24-point hands. Do you both know these off the top of your head? And a little thinking emoji. I definitely have the 23-point hands memorized. In particular, in our club, there is a pot for what we call 23 the hard way, which is the ones with the 5s. And the only way to get it is if you have 5 5 Jack Jack and you cut the right 5. So I know that one very, very well. And then the other is 4 5 5 5 6. So those ones I know just like that. The 24s, there's a few more, right? Because there's the ones with the 4s, 5s, and 6s, the ones with the 7s and 8s, and then there's also the ones with the quads, right? And I think that's the one that is kind of forgotten.
Quad 7s and an ace, quad 6s and a 3, quad 3s and a 9. I think I'll get it.
Yep, quad 4s and a 7,
yeah.
And I think that's all of them. So yeah, there's a few different ways, and some of these you just have to memorize them. At least for me, I know the 3 6s and 9s hands. I've just had to kind of memorize, right? Like 3 6
those
6
are
6
hard.
9. Yeah, those are hard to count. I'll give the short version of this story, but I remember being at the National Open when I was a wee young cribbage player, and that is a Muggins tournament, and I was playing somebody and had one of those weird hands, so 3 6s and 9s, and so he counts his hand and counts to the dead hole, right? And I have one of those weird hands, and I don't know if I'm out or not. And so if I knew I threw like a face 5 in the crib, so I knew I was out in the crib if I just count my hand right. But if I undercount it, then he would mug me and go out. If I overcount it, then I false claim a game and he would win. So I sat there for like what was probably, and I can't remember who the opponent was, and they were gracious. For 2 full minutes, just making sure I counted it right. I think it was like 3 3 6 6 9 or something like that. And it was just like, what am I missing? What am I doing? Am I going to screw this up? I was very, very nervous. But yeah, those are the ones you just have to kind of commit to memory. And Wanda tossed over a hand, which we will jump into. I think this is a good one for the actual hands. And then the last one comes from Stephen Dugas. Hey, guys. Doing a great job, and the long match was great fun. Can't wait for the next one. I was wondering if at some point in the podcast you could take a minute or 2 to promote the upcoming ACC tournaments, locations, and directors. May help bring up the numbers and possibly remind some people last minute if they're close by. Thanks as always, and keep up the great work. Hashtag Team Terry. I know, LOL. Sorry, Jason, but I still respect the hell out of you. Well, Doogie, it's nice of you to email for the last time ever on this program. I think that's a worthy idea, and I would like anybody who sends me like tournament notices or something like that, I'm happy to read them in this portion of the program. So I think that's a worthy idea, kind of push and promote the tournaments. So especially, I know in like the Northeast, there's a lot more consolidated like areas. So there's a chance of people just like forgetting there's one in, I don't know, like New Hampshire in some weekend or whatever it is. It's a little different for I think me and like the Houston area. It isn't exactly a cribbage hotbed. Neither is like Myrtle Beach, if I may say so myself.
Yeah, unfortunately not.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So before we get to the hands, we do have a major announcement here. Breaking news on the air. The first annual, or maybe we'll do it more than annually, first ever competitive cribbage long match has come to a close, and we have an upset champion. This may be the first tournament this person has ever won. Let me make sure I get the name right. Eric Lockie from Portland. Have you heard of this gentleman? I don't know if he's ever won a tournament before, but no, all kidding aside, congrats to Eric, and congrats to Robert Milk, who got to the finals. Yeah, awesome for both of them. Also, Final Four for both Voldemort and Ed May. So I would go as far as to say I'm gonna pat myself on the back here, but the first ever competitive cribbage long match, I feel like was a fun thing. It was a success. It went so much more smoothly than I ever thought it would be, and everybody did a great job of getting through their matches quickly. Some more than others. Terry Cushman, like
I got through it in a timely manner. I just didn't get through it.
yeah. Oh, that's how it goes sometimes. But yeah, we'll see if we can. We'll talk to Commissioner Jordan and see if we can ban Eric from the rest of them going forward. I had him beat, Terry. I had him dead ass beat. And he pulls that stupid. I'll never forget that damn ace that he had when I made it 30. Not better. Not better.
Ravenscroft did the same thing to me one year.
Yeah. No fun. It's very like Newman, like Ravenscroft. Lock. Anyway. Okay. I think that's all the business we have to take care of before we actually jump to the hands here this week. And we are plentiful, the coffers are. So we will get this moving here. All right. So here's one that you had. Thanks as always to David Hayes for allowing us to do this on his website, cribbage121.com. It's a little repair tool that he fit in here also, like a little way for us to fix things like on the spot quickly here. I'm going to turn back on Terry Cushman mode here for the, there we go, to remind us who, if you are or are not the dealer. That gets obnoxious. I'm going to turn that back off. So, okay. So a hand that you submitted to me earlier today, which I thought was interesting. And I think there's a couple other things to talk about when it comes to this one, the end game thing. But it's your hand. I'll let you intro it. Oh, do we have records after last week?
Yes,
there was some tabulation.
77 agree, 66 disagree.
Okay, all right.
So you are in the 119 hole. Opponent is dealing in the 118 hole. So you're basically at the very end of the game. You are dealt 2, 4, 7, Jack, Queen, King, no flush in play.
So these in-game spots are always tricky to me. And I am a little more progressive in a lot of these spots where I don't necessarily like always have to hold enough points to get out. Because usually in these spots, you will not end up counting your hand one way or the other. However, with this particular one, I think I don't love a lot of the routes to get out. And so in this one, I'm going to play this one boring and traditional. And I think the traditional way to hold this one is to hold. You have to hold the 3-card run to have enough to get out. And I'm going to hold the 4 along with it. I like the 4 as the lead card a little better than I do the 2. So that's what I'm going with in this spot. I don't like it. I don't know if there's a good answer here, but I like that a lot better than trying to hold like just a weird mix and hoping I can peg 2.
All right, I'm going to play it a little differently, so I guess it's going to be a disagree. I like holding 7, Jack, Queen, King here with the 7 lead to try and almost force a face card to be played. Could they play? I mean, I don't think they would pair it or make it 15 because the next play could get me out. I don't think they're going to play a smaller card on it, because I could pair that, or maybe still get a 15 out of it. So it's kind of an all or nothing way for me to play it. All my eggs are going to be in the can I pair them in the second play of the pegging basket. But that's how I would do it.
Yeah, if you lead the 7 from that, I'm not saying it's wrong, um, but if you lead the 7 from that spot, it's basically game over, right? If they don't play a face there.
It
Um,
could be.
but it's certainly game over if they have a 7 or an 8 in their hand, and it seems pretty unlikely, like, unless you're really getting into some weird big brain stuff, right, most people are relying on you, like, having the backup card. But that would be like, if I'm the dealer in this spot and you lead the 7 and I have a 7, like, I'm gonna play that every time. But maybe there is some big brain stuff in play here. There, if I had an 8 here as a dealer, I'm not thrilled about making that 15, because it seems almost assured that you're gonna have a 6 or a 9 or an 8, to
Mhm.
kinda cover yourself there. So, maybe it's a better play than I give you credit for at first. Like, I don't hate that. I'm sticking with what I have. I like the numbers a little better, just play the 4 and hope for the best. But there's some merit to that, maybe.
Okay.
All right, that's a fun one. All right, we will jump to the next one here. And so this comes via Voldemort and the group text. Um, and so you are, and I screwed this up. You are not the dealer, so I don't even know how to fix this. Let me refresh that. Look at that. So it's live on the air. I get to like fix this. So you are in hole 84. Your opponent is dealing in a hole 82. In fact, I think it might be 82, 84. I got to check the group text on this. This is neat. I get to like test drive like Dave's stuff like on the spot here. Do you remember in the group text if this was 82, 84? This was hotly debated in our little window there.
I don't remember. I only vaguely remember talking about it.
Hold on. Yeah, Pwn from 84, dealer from 82. So I was right the first time. So let me fix that on the screen here. That's neat. It does it right on the spot. Okay. So you are first count in hole 84. Your opponent is dealing from hole 82. And the hand is 2, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10. So I will give a spoiler here because I remember how we tossed these. But yeah, what do you think here, Terry? What's your logic? How do you kind of navigate this?
Some of these are mood. Sometimes they're
Dependent?
mood. Yeah, and I hate that. But I think I would have thrown 9-10 here, and opted for the 2, 5, 6, 7. And if I miss the cut, I'm probably gonna lead the 7 just to try to get a 3-card run, even if I get destroyed. 3 points is 3 points when you're in a spot like this. If I hit the cut, I'd probably be a little bit more conservative and lead a deuce. But nonetheless, 2, 5, 6, 7 would be my hold.
I agree with you on the hold. And I think we can both agree that this position, 84, 82 with first count, it is, you ever heard the term burn the boats before, Terry? Do you know what that one means? It's kind of done by a lot of, I don't know, like creepy, like dude bro types, but it's valid at least in this place. There's a legend that one of these like generals, I'm sure I could look it up who it was, but that when he was sailing into this island for a battle, he instructed his men to burn their boats, with the idea was there was going to be no surrender, no retreat, no anything, right? Burn the boats, attack with everything that you have, because there is no turning back. And I think this is one of these spots. Like you need the points as best as you can. And I think 2, 5, 6, 7 is just the best pegger out of these. But the only part where I'll disagree is I think I'm leading the 2 almost no matter what happens. I just think there are more routes to just pair in that first lead card. Like with the 8 or with the 7 lead there. I'm just not crazy about that one, especially if I'm playing a sophisticated opponent who I think is going to be smart enough to know not to trade pegs here. I'd rather just lead the 2. and I'm going to pair anything, take anything there.
What if they have to peg though? I mean, what if their hand's just not that good?
I mean, you're going to have to be really, really bad to be willing to trade from 84, 82. Like if you're a dealer here in 80, let's talk about the other side of this coin, right? If you're the dealer in hole 82, your opponent's in 84. Like I'm not trading unless I have a blank hand or a 2-point hand and a crib that I'm almost certain is dead, depending on the cut. Like if I have anything here, I'm just not really dying to make a whole lot of trades there. Like maybe I have a hand like I don't know, like where I don't really have a choice. Say I have like 6, 7, 8, 8, and you lead the 7, right? Like then I guess I'm gonna play the 8 there no matter what. But that seems rare that the hands would line up in that manner. Like I would just rather stay away if I'm the dealer in that spot.
I just don't love the idea of only being in the 91 or 92 hole. And most of the time when I preface this, it's against an average player. Like,
Mhm.
I'm not convinced that they would all necessarily lay off.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think maybe like a bad player would not realize the position better, but assuming I'm playing somebody that, knows enough to at least play the Lin theory, that's they're just not going to jump in a whole lot of there. So but it's still an agree nonetheless. Like it's an agree, but maybe some nuances of how we see it a little differently. All right, here's a real doozy that came from Bestie Wanda, and this is one of these just when you pick up the hand, and you go, oh cool, and then you go, what? So you are first count in hole 47. Your opponent is dealing in hole 37. And there is a flush here in play here, folks. But the hand is 4, 4, 5, 5, 7, 8. And there is a 4, 5, 7, 8 flush. This is a brutal one, like just a brutal spot. I don't know how I would, like I think I know how I'm holding this, but I'm not thrilled at any of the possibilities here.
Well, the two ways I'm looking at right now is you can just chuck the fours and keep 5, 5, 7, 8. But after thinking about it for an extra half a second, I'd probably throw 5, 8 off suit. That way I can lead one of the fours, still be somewhat open ended as far as a 6 or a 3 cut, and not get destroyed pegging. So 4, 4, 5, 7 is how I would hold it.
Okay. That's not really a route that I thought of, and to be honest, I still don't like it. Like I'm gonna opt for a defensive throw here, and I feel like the one that I feel best about is 7-4 in this spot. I'm not crazy about it, but I already have one of the other fours. Like I don't love holding 4, 5, 5, 8. But there are so few cuts that miss that wholly, right? Like I guess an ace misses it. Like a I don't know, the 2 hits it, the 3 hits it, the 6 hits it, the 7 gives me a piece. I guess the 9's pretty bad, but like I get a piece with almost everything. I've got 2 5s in my hand. Like and just 7-4 is more defensive than 5-8. So just to me, situation dictates here. Just a little bit of defense. But I don't really think there's any great defensive throw. Just like I mean, if you really really want to go crazy, you could. But I think we both agree in this spot. I don't think you can go nuts and throw 7-8 here, and you cannot go nuts and throw the 4-5 and hold the flush here either. That's a little much for even Mr. Offense, it seems like. So
Yeah, I don't love it here. I'm not if I was maybe 6 or 8 points further up, I could entertain the 7, 8, but you're just too far back, and realistically, I'm only gonna cut into 8 with a really dangerous throw to the crib.
just as a thought exercise, if this is, like a game 9 of a con or it's grassroots, and you need a skunk, do you just pitch the 7-8 here, I would think?
If it absolutely had to be a skunk and not a regular win,
Yeah,
I might do it.
I think so too. I think, like if it's, grassroots sitting on 9 points with 1 to go, right? It's 12 or bust. Like, I think I pitched 7-8 here and I don't really give it a whole lot of thought. But okay. All right, moving on. So here's one that came from Debbie Cotter, and I thought this was an interesting one. So another flush and play here. So you are first count in hole 102. Your opponent is dealing in hole 96. And the hand you have been dealt is 5, 6, 6, 9, 10 jack. And there is a 6, 9, 10 jack flush. So this is another good one. This is a thinker, in my opinion. So break it down for me. How do you see this position? What's your goal? What are you trying to do here?
Yeah, everything's just like so close, like right on the line. Like they're barely in position here. So the fact that they're only barely in position, do I want to just go balls out defense? But if you keep the 6, 9, 10 jack, I mean the suited hand, you could conceivably get to the 118 hole and then possibly peg out. That's tough.
It's a tough one, right? It's just, I mean, we're not putting the easy ones on the program here. This is one that, right, it's that spot, like you feel pretty good about your spot here. You pick up at your hand, you go, oh no, what do I do now? So,
I guess final answer, I'm probably going to throw 9 jack.
okay. I think it's a disagree. I think we have the same idea, but I think we're going about it a little differently. I agree. I think it's a defense spot, right? They are dead on, the number here, 25, 26 out. If I were a little closer, if I was like 106 or something, maybe this would go for it spot. But to me, this is the lockdown defense, and 6-10, I would say is the best defensive throw that I have here, and so I'm going with that. It's just don't even need to really think it any further than that. That's the best defensive throw in my opinion here. So that's what I'm going to do. Like I've already got a 6 and a 9 in my hand, so there's just less for them to hit.
I kind of like keeping the 4 somewhat in play. I mean, that would get me to the 116 hole. If I could peg 1 or 2 this hand, I might have a shot at going out on pegging the next one. So that's why I landed where I landed on this one.
Fair enough. I think I'll give a shout also. I think worthy of considering here. I think you can consider 10 jack here. Right? Like it's like I think I would consider 10 jack before I would hold the flush here. Because at least with 10 jack, I have the 4 is my magic cut, but even the 7 cut, I feel pretty good about. Right? It gives me 12. It doesn't hit the 10 jack that I've thrown in the crib. I don't know. 9 jack is just a little too connected for my tastes there.
Fair enough.
Okay. All right. So here's one that came from Mike Kroom. So you are first count in hole 50. Your opponent is dealing in hole 46. And the hand is ace 3, 4, 5, 7, 7.
I'm going to throw ace 7 offsuit here.
Yeah. Agreed. I think this one is like mark that for a 3 chili pepper agree, if you will, or in your case like a 3 cheese pizza agree, or what's the barbecue pizza? That's the one that you like, right?
Yeah, I like barbecue.
Go with that. All right, so thank you for that one, Mike. All right, so here's one from Commissioner Jordan, Canadian Jordan. So you are first count in hole 79. Your opponent is dealing in hole 70. And there's another flush in play here, but we'll get to that. Ace 4, 6, 6, 9, queen. And there's also an ace 4, 6, queen cut, or flush, if you will. So thoughts here, Mr. Cushman?
Yeah, not really a lot of hesitation with this one either. I'm throwing ace queen.
I agree. Mark me down for another agree on this one. It gives you the guaranteed 6 points, a cut at 16, the 6-6-4 trap. I just curious, what would be your second place on this one? Because there's one other thing that's a little wild that I think I would consider with this.
I mean, ace 4, 6, 9 would be a great pegging hand. That would put queen 6 in the crib, but I don't know. I might actually hold the flush. That would probably be my second choice.
Okay. I feel like it's the old saying that I've mentioned on this program before that I think Gary McCuskey and I brought up, which is if you're gonna play D, right? This is a spot that kind of speaks to defense. And right, the most defensive throw here is Queen 9. And I think an argument could be made. I don't think a very strong one, let me be clear. But yeah, it's just right. That's the most defensive throw here. And your opponent is in a very critical spot at dealing at 70. You just have to hold them a little bit short and you're going to win this game. But yeah, I think you still have to hold 6 points here one way or the other. So, all right, we'll keep it moving here. Thank you to Jacob Zenicola. He sent like a few hands, and I plucked this one for today's show. This is just one of these spots. It's kind of brutal. You pick up your hand, you go, what? So you are first count in hole 109. Your opponent is dealing in hole 100. And the hand is ace 2, 3, 3, 5, 5. And you go, why can't this be my crib? For the record, people say that out loud in games. Please don't ever do that. You were giving away your opponent so much information when that happens. Like just, like it's amazing if you just sit there and listen to what people will like give away to you in terms of information. So anyway, but this one, like pretty brutal spot, but like I did look at this one before and kind of did a little count myself. So I feel pretty strongly on this one. Curious if we agree.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw ace 3 and just go for the easy shot for 10 here. I've got a bunch of cuts to 8. A 4 still gives me what, 12? Yeah, I'm throwing deuce 3, 5, 5 here. No, I'm keeping deuce 3, 5, 5 rather.
Interesting. Okay. I'm going to make a case here. I think you throw the nickels in this spot. Here's why. There are so many cuts in this deck that get you exactly where you need to get to. In fact, there's only one cut in the whole deck that does not improve your hand, which is a 5. And there are 2 of them that you know of. So there are 2 cuts out of 46 that don't get you to at least 10 points here, right? And you're already out if you cut an ace, a 2, a 3, a 9, a 10, a jack, a queen, a king. Now, if it's double ace or double deuce, there are cuts. There's more than one cut that doesn't improve your hand. But I think in this spot, just counting the outs, I think you have to chuck the nickels as much as it might pain you. Like, so as long as you don't cut a 5, I feel pretty confident about my chances of not only like cutting, you have more than half the deck to win the game immediately, but even if you like cut, I don't know, say like a 6, right, which is not a very good cut for this spot, you still got 10 points. You just have to peg 2. I like my chances to peg 2 with that hand.
Yeah, I guess a 6 or a 9 is what I'm really just trying to avoid.
Well, 9 you're out. 9 you're great with. Like,
no, I mean with my own hold.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, and like I said, I think yours is reasonable, but I think there are, like I said, you're hating life if you like if you do find one of those cuts. But like even in some of those, like there's just fewer cuts to like win the game on the spot. Like I would rather just cut, one of what is it? I think it's like 28 out of 46 cards, right? Like the 9, the 10, the jack, the queen, the king. That's 5 cards. That's 20 cuts themselves. And then the 2 3s, the 3 2s, the 3 aces. Yeah, that's another 8 cards. So you have 28 out of 46 that just win the game before you even have to worry about pegging anything. So to me, that swings it. All right. Thank you for that one, Jacob. Kind of curious how that one ended. And we're back to your original one. So we're going to go back to now America's favorite game show. How you peg that. All right. So it's funny. Like I kind of assumed for this first hand, now that you are not the dealer, is not going away, and I don't care for that. Let's see if we refresh you. There we go. So I kind of assumed you were going to hold this hand the way that you thought I would. So this is the one we were chatting about earlier today. So this is 4 Jack Queen King from hole 119. Your opponent dealing at hole 118. Terry Cushman, how you peg that?
I mean, you have to lead the 4. I would say.
Right? It's like in these spots, like I think sometimes people get a little fancy. Like I think it was Voldemort that taught me like the number 1 card your opponent's going to have in their hand in a spot like this when they're 3 out is a 5. So I think every once in a while people get a little too fancy and think they can lead the face card. I feel like that's not the way to go that one. So pretty simple hand to lead us off here on how you peg that. But and again, by the way, for the record, we're getting lots of hands in the mailbox. We need the how you peg that hands more than anything else. So positions, cards, all those good things. These ones there's a little nuance to it. Okay, here's one that came up when I was playing Cribbage Pro earlier today. I'll give you a chance to pat yourself on the back. How are things going on Cribbage Pro for you right now, Terry Cushman?
Well, I decided to use the podcast account this season, and every season on Cribbage Pro, I think, is about 90 days. And so it's the first time using the podcast account, and right now it's ranked number 1.
Number 1 in the world. I got a text message, right as you sent a picture of that to the group text. Somebody texted me. It was Rick Baird actually, and said, "Hey, does that account you?" And and I said, "No, that's Terry." And he goes, "Okay, well, good, because you I worry about, but Cushman I feel confident that I can pass eventually." So that was a nice little dig from Mr. Padre is what he goes by online. I like Rick Baird. He's a funny guy. So
yeah.
So anyway, okay, but I was playing on Cribbage Pro earlier today. I gotta get back in the habit of playing there. Like JMath714 is my handle on there, and now you are just podcast, I believe, is what you're playing under. It's literally the name.
Yeah, my personal. I don't think I'll play on that one forever, but my personal account is TC2.
Because you're junior, right? Is that where that one came from? Like you're
Yeah.
Terry Cushman Jr. So
Junior, yeah.
Okay, so here's one that I thought it's just a little nuance, right? I feel like there's multiple ways to play this one. So first hand out of the box, your opponent is dealing, and you decide to hold 4, 5, 6, 9. And in this, I don't know if this is relevant to the choice here, but a 5 was cut in this spot. So Terry, how do you peg this one? I feel like you could make a case for maybe 3 of the different cards here, but I feel pretty strongly about this one, but curious if you see it differently.
I love leading the 9 from this hand. If they happen to drop a small one on it, you could be off to the races with the pegging. If they play a 6 on it, I'm not afraid to pair it, because I mean a lot of times they're probably not going to have a face card to go with it. Occasionally they'll have like 6, 9, 10 Jack, and in which case they would. But I don't know. I just feel like a lot of good things happen when I lead the 9.
Okay. I think 15 it with the 6 there. I feel like I'd be very tempted to play the 4 on it at that point, because I feel pretty safe with that 4. And if they have the 5, then you can repeat the run. But I tend to stay traditional with this kind of hand, and more often than not, this was a Brian Gurdon like coaching that I gleaned from him once, and who knows, maybe he'll reach out and be like, "Hey, I didn't teach you how to do it this way," but the way something he told me is just anytime you can lead a card under 5, the numbers are overwhelmingly in your favor to just go ahead and do that and try to stay off of the pegs there. So the 4 is where I lead there. Just out of curiosity, if you play the 9 and they play just like a face card on it, right, like queen, what are you returning with there? Is it the 4, or do you kind of go a little on like you play the 6 because you feel pretty good they don't have a 6? Like what's your kind of next move there?
I would absolutely play the 6 on it.
Okay, so let that be known. Then when you have one of these, Terry Cushman leads a 9 on you, and you hold this, maybe if you hold the 6 till later, you can really lay it on him. Okay. By the way, is that an always thing, the 9 lead from that hand, or is that kind of mix it in here or there?
I mean, if that was a late game situation and I hit the cut and I didn't want them to peg, I may lay off of it and just lead the 4. But first hand of the game, I'm probably always going to lead it that way.
Okay. All right. So here's another one. This came up at club, and to be honest, I don't even remember like why. I think it's because I got banged up doing it a different way. But it's just room for thought on this one. So pretty common hand that you end up holding 3, 4, 8, 8. I wrote down the position. So you are first count in hole 70. Your opponent was dealing from hole 59. Like 3, 4, 8, 8. How do you peg that, Terry?
I love the 5 trap here, but I think at this stage of the game where I have a pretty comfortable lead, I'm probably just going to lead the 4 and just try not to cause too much mischief.
Okay. And I know in the Delin book they mention what they call little turkey plays. And if you're gonna not lead the 8 here, like I strongly believe in leading the 4 because you that way if you get paired, then you could play the 8 and get the count above 15. Just little nuanced things that I feel like people miss sometimes, right? If you lead the 3, you get paired. Um, right, then there's an opportunity where if you play the 8, they have an ace. You've now given up just 2 extra points. So something to be said about that one. If they lead a face, or if you play the 4, they play a face. Let's say it's a jack. Um, like how do you proceed then with this hand?
I'd probably dump the 3 next.
Okay. Is there any thought to not doing that? Just I don't love holding 8-8 here because right, 8-8 is 16. So if they have all faces and a 5, I've just given them a bonus 15 there.
Well, I mean, would they'd get a 31 with it? Well, no, because
Well,
the 5.
pardon me, a bonus 31. So essentially a bonus point, right? So if they
Yeah.
play the 4, they play a face, you play the 3, they play another face, go, right? 8 face, 8, 5, and 31.
Yeah, I'd still live with it, I think, because I mean, if they're showing a face, I'm not really worried about getting. I just don't want to give up a big pegging play here based on where our pegs currently sit with that lead. I don't think they're going to make up that ground on me, so I'd still be content to keep the 8s together for after the go.
Okay, sounds good. Again, right? Squeeze every hole in this. And I think that's the last one we had here. So again, more hands always from those from how you peg that. Again, America's new favorite cribbage game show. Sorry. Well, we had a whole lot of everything on this program, Terry. From I don't know what you would have called it, like Law and Order. Like I want the like Bong Bong. Like you ever watched like Law and Order or any of those shows ever?
I think I
Yeah,
saw some of the SVU ones because my ex really liked it back in the day.
okay. I know you're more of a first 48 guy.
Yeah, that's
Like we've covered this on the air. Yeah, I feel like all of us have gotten hopefully our investigator energies are now out of us and we can kind of focus all this energy on cards going forward. Like I'll say myself, like I said, I had a lot of conversations about all of these things has come up, but I think we are all very, very interested in just sticking with the cards going forward. And hey, I got a countdown. I don't know when your next tournament is. Like I know I'm going to Deadwood in roughly a month. Is today sits on March 24th, assuming I can get out of the airport. That's another story. But when's your next tournament? You got one coming up in the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, a week from Friday.
Week from Friday. All right. Consider me jealous. I've just got grassroots coming up here. By the way, very exciting news in the Houston area where potentially a second club is starting in our little zone. So
Really?
yeah, I'm super jazzed about it. Like we're gonna go out there and support the new club. The splinter cell, if you will, of the Space City Skunkers, which is our normal club. So go out there and check that out tomorrow. But yeah, more cribbage in the Lone Star State is always a good thing. So, all right.
Okay.
Well, for Mr. Tinfoil himself on the East Coast, Jason Matheny here, thanking you for listening. Everybody peg well. Have a great week.